Hey guys, it's Will. So KULR stock has been moving fast, and just a week and a half ago, we were trading those consistent swings together in our morning sessions. Today, we're diving back in, and we've got a special guest joining us, a crypto specialist, to break down what Bitcoin's latest move could mean for KULR stock as they're allocating 90% of their cash into Bitcoin. Here's the big news also. For a limited time, when you enroll in CryptoMate's lifetime access, you'll get 1 full year of StockMate included. That's a $1,100 value completely free. You get to watch me trade live every morning. And CryptoMate gives you daily live sessions with Ace. And during this launch window, you're getting both programs bundled together. Just head to CryptoMate. It's the early bird offer. It's only available for a short time. It's the link down in the description. Now I'm here with Ace. Thanks for joining us here, Ace.
Hey, Will, thank you so much for having me. Man, you're way over in Cali. I'm over here in Miami, beautiful Miami. This is where we met. And I really miss our talks over here out by the pool, where we first started talking about all this. Preserving capital, investing in the right things, not just anything, and the way we really thought about this, and the diligence and patience involved. I really love those talks. I think that's how we ended up here. We really realized that we were simpatico.
Yeah, man. I'm excited too that we got to talk about it on a daily basis while we were living there. I remember the
Yeah.
first time we met and we immediately started talking about like the gold standard and some of like the Federal Reserve moves, and then we just shifted
Yeah.
some of the crypto and guys, Ace recently, like I reached out to Ace. I said, "Hey Ace, I'm doing this stockmate here where I'm covering the stocks. I want to cover crypto, but I don't have time. I'm deep in these companies." Ace says, "Let's do it, man."
Yeah.
And look at
Yeah.
you. Now you're starting your YouTube channel. You got it going. We're growing extremely fast. You just surpassed a couple thousand views in the first few weeks. And yeah, I mean, so we're here. Some people are like, we're talking about stocks, KULR. What's going on? Why are we talking about crypto? Guys, if you're not familiar with this company, Battery Tech, they specialize in AI and uh, very temperature resistant battery systems for NASA. They have a rideshare mission with SpaceX. They work with Lockheed Martin as well. And we're here to talk about this move for Bitcoin because a lot of investors say, I don't know about this, not sure. I've told them, hey, I think it's a good move. And I just want to bring on a specialist, someone that's in the crypto space that could give a kind of give some insights into this for someone that's like they don't really know why KULR would invest 90% of their money in Bitcoin. We can see the stock. We got it open here. Can you run that down for us, Ace?
Absolutely. I could give you several reasons, really. I mean, first of all, if you're not familiar with the way that Bitcoin works and why it's gone up so much, why it's in the 80,000s right now as we speak, there's this stock to flow ratio, meaning there's a built in scarcity. So the more Bitcoin transactions happen and the more of it is mined, unlocked from the ledger, there's a limited supply of this and it's going to run out in 100 years or so. But the point is that there becomes less and less of them in the future that could be mined, and as they get bought up, this keeps the scarcity going. So what big companies like this are doing, Michael Saylor, you mentioned strategy, he really set the tone with this. He's been buying a lot in the last month or so, billions of dollars worth. And what this is, it's a fast track to seeing your valuation go up. And this is why Bitcoin is valued so high, right? This scarcity model. And there's many more reasons why that's going to continue and continue faster. But let's just really quickly go into what these companies are doing is they sell some stock and get some money, then they go buy Bitcoin, and then that becomes a valuable asset, a store of value, and eventually it goes up, maybe not so eventually, and it goes up exponentially, and then they sell some of that, or rather, they don't even have to sell any. The value of their company goes up because now it's an asset listed under their company, an official asset, and then their company goes up higher. They sell stock, they buy more Bitcoin. It's like a never-ending cycle exponentially to the sky.
Right.
That's the way
Right.
Michael Saylor sees it. That's the way Metaplanet sees it. That's the
Now, how
way
do you think about that, like
GameStop
ethically?
is
How,
doing it.
how do you think about that ethically? Like, because you mentioned GameStop, you see all these companies. What do you think? Because I I imagine they have a average purchase price of $98,000. Is that right? Do you know? It's
GameStop?
98,000. No, this
Oh,
company
KULR.
KULR.
Cool. Yes, yes,
So
right. That I just believe I just saw that. Yeah,
yeah, in
98,000.
yeah, and they're holding a significant amount,
Mm-hmm.
65 million dollars. Now they're currently down. If that's their average purchase price, right? We could pop
Right.
into uh to Bitcoin and see they're holding what is 65 million, and now Bitcoin's down to 83,000. So what do you think about the fact that they are currently down 9 million, but they're still continuing to allocate 90%? They plan to invest some more. Most people are like, why buy Bitcoin as opposed to company operations? Why not put
Mm-hmm.
money
Mm-hmm.
into company operations? And I want you to kind of enlighten some people on that.
Yeah. Well, more and more people, companies in general, and people are starting to think of Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation and against market volatility. Believe it or not, even though Bitcoin can be considered very volatile. At the same time, in the long term, it's really just going to go up because of this scarcity, right? So they see it as something, and also, well, let's go straight into what just happened in this last week with trade
Yeah.
war news knocking the charts. When things dove like crazy dove in the markets, Bitcoin just for Bitcoin it's a wobble when something's valued at around $85,000 in general, and it slides down to the mid 70s or high 70s for most of that time, and barely touched down further before it bounced. And every chance it got, every time the news cleared up or was slightly positive or got out of the way, it would drift back up to 80 and over 80, just like it is now. And right now, I'm sure they're saying that this is a good time to buy because it's under 85,000, just barely right now, and that is under the cost of mining it. So that's a great place to look as like your median cost, and they're thinking this is a good time to buy it. And they're looking at this is, as I talked about, the scarcity of where it's going to go. It's crazy to people because they're thinking this isn't your normal asset, right? They're not like, it's not gold or operations or another company we can expand to. Why are they doing this? And in times of so much uncertainty, the one thing they can count on is that Bitcoin's going to go up. And there's even more to that, right? As I'm sure a lot of people know, the government started their whole digital assets reserve centered with Bitcoin as the main asset. And it came along with a mandate to buy. So what's going to happen soon is that government will start buying. And we know this is going to spark other governments to start buying. And this is more also not just to do with it as an asset, a store of value that's going to appreciate, but also as a technology. Scott Bessent, the Secretary Treasurer, he right after the announcement of that reserve, he did this really great presentation where he broke it down for the audience, and he said, as the largest network out there with the largest market cap and in the most hands and most transactions, he sees it as a wall of technology. Because the way these ledgers work, right, is that they have to be, if you were to try to hack Bitcoin, you would have to try to hack over all half of the validators, transactional validators, miners, etc., who are
Right, right. Well, let's
who
take a
are
step back.
are approving these transactions.
So let's take
Yeah,
a step back before we go into like the solidity of the tech or the security. I also
yeah,
just want to know, like, because I imagine you're investing in this company, right? You're investing in a space company. That's what's happening here.
mm-hmm,
People are investing in it because they see the tech. They're like, oh, I like the tech.
yeah,
Then the company comes out with the announcement and says, we're investing 90% of the cash that we have into Bitcoin. And you're asking yourself, wait,
mm,
hold on. I didn't invest in this company because of the the Bitcoin. I invested in this company because of the tech. So now they're going to invest in all
yeah.
this money in Bitcoin. Um, I don't know if I want to hold a company. Is it a Bitcoin company? Is it like, is it a tech company, or is it a Bitcoin company?
You
Can
know
you?
what? I think you've got the dots right there, and I think I can connect them. This is pretty cool. So along with this, just to sum up some of before we go in, yeah, and why the security aspect of Bitcoin being this large network, but also just as a technology. That's really the heart of what Scott Bessent was saying. This goes along with what I was saying as a technology, and they want to build on it. They want to build government systems. They want to build a lot of systems. There's this look towards real world asset tokenization on there, stuff like, possibly the stock market
Right, right.
and
And let's
DeFi
pull up.
environments,
Let's
just
pull.
finance. So, well, really quick, Will, this is
Yeah.
actually pretty exciting. So these guys are switching to AI, and they want to buy Bitcoin. So I'm thinking it's not just as an asset, it's also as a technology, and they might be planning to do some builds on it with their
Mm.
technology.
Yeah, and also, what did you say? Like you were like you said something that really caught my eye. There's two things. The first thing is it's a technology, and in it's basically, if it's deemed digital gold by the Federal Reserve. Some people are like, yeah, but it's Bitcoin. Like that's things going to zero. You hear it all the time, right? But when you look at the architecture, that's what they say. They have their site here compared to gold, and then they're saying it's basically, rather than holding cash, we're just holding Bitcoin. It's going to appreciate rather than depreciate. And even if Bitcoin, if cash gets printed and inflation hits, that just means the Bitcoins are going to be worth more in terms of how much cash they're worth. And so
Yep.
when you say that, but that was the first thing that kind of caught my. But then the other thing that you're saying here is the government side of things. And so you're saying, like, what did you say when we were talking before this? You're like, KULR works with NASA. They work with government contracts. They work with these
Mm.
other companies that the CEO talks with Michael Saylor and all this.
Yeah,
What do
yeah.
they know that we don't know? What do they see that we don't see?
That was my question exactly. It was, yes, what do they know that we don't know, or that we should know, or rather that we're seeing and maybe we're just not getting through to our heads is, the government's investing in this. They're talking about building systems on it. KULR is connected with NASA, government, military, and this is all about to happen. So it's as a technology, and government buying's gonna send it straight up in price, but also the technology can be built on it, and it's really possible they're aligning themselves in the right place. And the writing's on the wall. It was made a reserve. They're talking about using it as a technology. I mean, we can put this together, right?
Right, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the people that are watching KULR, they come here and they say, "Okay, I'm looking at the battery tech. Can you see my screen right now? Can you see the screen I'm sharing with you, Ace?"
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
So
there we go.
so
Yeah.
so so they're looking at KULR. They're saying the battery tech. They're seeing
Hmm.
NASA, Molicel. You got Lockheed Martin, Department of Transportation. So they're deep in the government.
Hmm.
And then they got that SpaceX rideshare mission. They're also changing. They changed their domain to KULR.ai because they're going more in the AI direction. And then
Hmm.
so you're investing it for maybe those reasons. And then you're saying, all right, what's going on over here with the Bitcoin? And they're basically saying, yeah, we're not going to hold cash, we're holding Bitcoin. And now investors, I've seen comment, this is so funny because we have two people, right? One person says, finally, it's about time they invest in Bitcoin. Or it's about time that they
Hmm.
they otherwise I don't want to. Some people are like, I don't want to invest in any company. Like I invest in Tesla, for example, someone says, because they started buying Bitcoin years ago, or whatever company. The thing that you see here, there's the other person that says, I don't want to invest in a company because look at, I invested for the tech. I don't want to see them buy Bitcoin. That doesn't make sense. And so
Hmm.
you got two people, but then at the same time you got two people. You're now looking at the tech and you're saying, okay, this is fine. Maybe some guys say, I'm fine investing in the company. They invest in Bitcoin. I kind of like it. I see the future. So the person comes over, they're like, yeah, if they're holding Bitcoin rather than cash, I'm cool with that. They're forward looking. I'm gonna invest in them, and maybe that Bitcoin move, they were a little confused, but they're like, but I see it. They're going towards the future, and I like it. It's gonna be good. I see the appreciation last 10 years on Bitcoin. Kind of makes sense. Let's do it. And they're kind of won over. They're like, all right, I could still invest in this company for their tech, and still see that Bitcoin move as a good long term bet. But then they're looking at it and they're saying, wait a minute, they're buying Bitcoin, but they're getting the cash by selling their stock shares. Well, I'm buying their stock shares. I'm buying their stock shares. They're diluting, or they're selling the stock shares to more people so that they could go buy more Bitcoin. And then you
Yeah,
ask, well, what would they normally do to sell stock like, because companies, they sell stock shares, but sometimes they
yeah,
buy more of their stock. They want to buy
yeah,
more of their
yeah,
stock. But and that's, I think that's like the Apple approach. It's like they invest back into the company, they buy their own stock, and it slowly increases the stock price over time because the company is buying their own stock. Now, when you have a company that's saying, well, we're selling our own stock in order to go buy Bitcoin, so maybe the stock
yeah,
prices go down. Now I'm asking as myself as an investor, that's the number one thing I want to know. Are you selling
yeah.
your own stock to go buy Bitcoin? Because if that's the case, I'll
Probably.
just, yeah, that's the thing. They don't specify that here on the site.
Yeah. I
And
mean, you're
so,
getting you're
but I
getting
don't
the
know.
the
What do you
the
think about that? Do you think that's bad that they sell their
institutional
own stock
adoption.
to buy Bitcoin?
No, I don't at all. I think it's actually really smart, and I think this is
Okay.
really, if anything, the last week of market volatility showed was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe a lot of the hard hit companies with with all the tariffs getting in the way of their of the fear of what's going to happen with these companies has to do with how much they're producing tech in China, right? Tech companies are making microchips in China. They're making hardware in China. So now the tech portfolio in a lot of sectors really took a hit. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, I mean
Is that
you're
accurate?
right. They the tech took a little bit less of a hit in some cases because
Hmm.
semiconductors are mainly in other countries like Taiwan or in the US because of the security concerns of having them come from China. But yeah, you're
Right.
right. Like Apple iPhones and some of those other smartphones and tech are built in China there. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So we're still in a trade war. It's definitely not
Hmm.
over. We're just a sort of like this nice little brief moment of catching our breath where, the China stuff is kind of priced into the market fluctuations at this moment. Like, how much more ridiculous can you get? Who cares if it's 100% tariffs or 150% tariffs on China and they're hitting us back? Like, we're in it now, and the rest are taking a break. So, and in negotiations, so the market has a chance to breathe. And in this moment, they're like, okay, there's going to be more pain ahead, surely, and there's many more things hitting the economy. That's what I think in terms of just being a good investment. What they saw was that in all of this, Bitcoin really held up. It didn't go down to previous valuations, even that far away. It really held up, and the more that big companies buy in and take good positions, the more it can hold up, right? And so that's one thing, just as an investment and a way to put their money,
Hmm.
and then of course, like I'm saying, that there's tech involved. It's a tech the government's going to be investing in and building on, and KULR is in that space with them.
Well, what you
So I think
said,
that it's twofold, you know.
it's twofold. But the thing that you said that actually changed my mind about the selling of their own stock to buy Bitcoin
Hmm.
is like the alternative is that that they hold the stock, and in the market sells, it's gonna sell off in these types of conditions, let's say.
Right,
And so
right.
they take an L, or they see it decrease and whatever, and none of
Hmm.
that money is tied US dollar to the stock. All the stocks are selling off. The US dollar is doing okay, but it's like it's kind of a liability in a way. But if they're
Right.
like,
Yeah.
okay, we sell the stock, some of it, well, we would rather invest back in assets that are going to appreciate. But then that begs the question, so it makes sense, right? It's like, okay, that makes sense because now they're making more money rather than losing it by holding their own stock or holding cash, right? So it makes sense from that
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
you
Even
say,
just inflation. Yeah. Just
yeah, but
inflation, stock
right.
fluctuations. And the more this investment comes into Bitcoin, the more we're seeing it just it's been showing signs. It moves with the market, but not as much. It has some exposure to the market through ETFs and things like that, options
Yeah.
and futures, but at the same time, it's still in the world of all its own. I mean, tariffs, for instance. What does that have to do with Bitcoin?
Wait, hold on, hold
What
on,
what?
hold on. You're a bull. Okay, you're bullish on Bitcoin, so it's like, and I am too, and I
Yeah.
get, and you're educating the audience, and I love that. But I'm also asking this question looking through the lens of the
Hmm.
KULR investor, and they're saying,
Yeah.
well, if they're selling the stock to go buy Bitcoin because it's a better asset or something like that, why am I holding the stock? Why don't I go buy Bitcoin?
Well, with that, yeah. Well, of course, the other side of that is Bitcoin really has nowhere to go but up, right? It
Right.
really has nowhere eventually to go but up.
No, I
I
get
mean,
that,
until
but
unless
why
the more
hold
so
the
the more, and
stock?
especially like you're going to see government buying it. Well, I'll get to that. So then the
Okay, okay.
Bitcoin valuation goes up, and as an asset on the balance sheet of Cooler then goes up. Then your stock is also inevitably just going up, and it has an asset that becomes as like I said, the more the floor of good investment into it, and then valuation keeps up even in hard times. It's going to keep your stock up, right?
Got it. So you're saying it might hurt the stock in the short term in that sell, but it can, over the long term, build investor confidence that that stock is not only working on technology, but also is holding assets that are appreciating the value of the company. And so the overall sentiment will be, yes, they're selling shares of the stock, but that the value that they're creating, they give themselves an edge and they're able to invest back more into their tech and become more of a powerhouse in their industry because of not only are they investing in their own company, but they're also having asset of Bitcoin as opposed to cash that appreciates, that maybe when they sell there, they have a lot more capital that they could throw back into R&D and things like that.
Correct. Right. So you
Got
both
it.
get something that just brings up their evaluation just by holding it, but also now they have this access to something that's now gained in value, and if they want to sell off some and go to cash, they certainly can do that.
Yeah, and it's
Absolutely.
also good in a way because think about this. What's the number one fear of anybody in the market? The number one
Crash.
fear. Crash?
Crash.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
or a surgence if
Yeah.
you're short, right? But what causes that 100% of the time? Almost 100% of the time.
Fear.
But what specifically causes it? Do you
The sell
know?
off. The
The
sell
sell
off.
off. And who
The
sells?
sell off. Yeah.
Who sells?
Well, people.
The
The
whales do. The
yeah, the
institutions.
whales do.
So
The large institutions.
so
Yes.
in a way, when they do kind of dilute themselves as a company and
Hedge funds.
they allow the other, they sell back to all these retail investors, they kind of sell their own stock in that way. They're also kind of positioning the stock to be less manipulatable by institutional or the actual company in selling big amounts of shares. So by selling big amounts of shares
Hmm.
in order to buy Bitcoin or any amount of shares, they're also
Yeah.
reducing the risk of having whale slash institutional sell off
Yeah.
in the future.
In that market, yes, yes. In some ways, Bitcoin is slightly exposed to it because there are ETFs and this market exposure, and
Right.
it's giving
Bitcoin could be
Bitcoin
exposed.
some small. I think that's the reason why Bitcoin even moved, during this last week was because of the market exposure. It would have
Right.
probably held up even better, because Bitcoin holders are like, well, we're not selling. But people who are traditional investors who are moving around their money back and forth and more on the day trading aspect, right? And, positioning around all the time and they have also margin trades that can get liquidated when the price goes the wrong way. And that creates, chart volatility, probably more than at this point than what anything that's going on with Bitcoin in the solid, actual, real asset buyers, right?
Now, some people
So
say, I know you talk about this in your live streams, and you say this on your channel. And guys, again, if you want to be there in the live streams with Ace, this type of information that he really brings clarity to the investments of crypto and especially Bitcoin are the type the type of information that can make you not feel so confused and not so struggling with the thought of cryptos or which company, like what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, and even the mindset of the cash you're holding is money or you're losing, as opposed to putting it into appreciating Bitcoin and how to handle that whole space without feeling like you're feeling stuck. CryptoMate gives you those answers. And again, right now you get CryptoMate and StockMate. StockMate you get for free for 1 year to watch me trade live, along with CryptoMate in those sessions with Ace, to not only see him take advantage of these moves in the markets, but also to hear those insights that most investors miss during this time. So do consider looking at those things. And again, it's the link in the description. And Ace, do you have anything to add there with before I go on this point? What, because I want to talk a little bit about the investment long term, holding cash versus Bitcoin, but I also want you to touch a little bit on what are they missing? Like, what do most people struggle with and they're dealing with before they get your expertise or find your YouTube channel or get into some of your insights?
With Bitcoin specifically, or even altcoins, it's like what is the actual? How can we find a valuation? What am I looking at as a what's undervalued? How can I think of these things, and what are the metrics to figure out if a coin is junk or real, because it is a highly unregulated space. And there's certainly a lot of trepidation when you're looking at that. And I would say right off the bat, I look at utility, I look at scarcity, and I look at demand. And so you can look at market cap and things like that. And that's, I really trade with just the coins that I know are amazing. And, we can look at things that are identifying a niche and have now become instrumental, like Chainlink coin, right? Which is a data aggregation service that really layers in with smart contracts, these wrapped coins that are tokens that are able to transmit data into these smart
that's
contracts.
the what
Like
too.
say you were tokenizing
why?
the stock market, which is
That's
what
the
we're looking
what.
at.
Ace. Ace. So
Right.
that's the what. That's the
Yeah.
what of what you cover, and you give them those insights so that they can get the
Yes.
answer. But why would they look at it?
Oh, why would they look
Why?
at certain?
Yeah. Why?
Yeah.
Why even look at crypto right now, and why look at this move from KULR as a potentially good move? And why is it better to hold some Bitcoin than cash?
Well, certainly, cash is got the inflation issues, and things in the stock market and in cash can go up and down. Bitcoin may fluctuate, but eventually it's just going up. And another thing, really, the big why, the big answer, the easy answer is this is the future. This is where we're going. Everything's being digitized. This is the future. And I mean, they're talking about digitizing the stock market. So your space will be digitized. It will be tokenized. Your securities will be tokenized. They will be put on a blockchain because they're more secure, because they have strong data, because we can track that data, and because that data can be faster and more up to date and unhackable, etc. This is the future.
Right.
It's where it's going.
Yeah,
All
and
of it.
people that capitalize, like if you're buying a house 4 years ago, it was 94% harder to afford that house if you held cash as opposed to Bitcoin during that period. Like,
Yeah.
the purchasing power is, maybe you buy a flight, let's say, across the US for $500. That cash that you spent on the flight, let's say it came from a pool of $1,000 in your accounts. And if you had that $1,000 held in Bitcoin during that time, the next year you try and take that flight for the same amount of cash that you had in the Bitcoin account, you could afford to fly first class at the same amount of cash because of the appreciation of Bitcoin.
Yep.
You get a,
Yep.
it's when you see these people printing Ferraris. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen if you buy Bitcoin, but when you look at the 5 year period, it's like someone that had $50,000 held 25K Bitcoin, 25K cash. The cash depleted, if not inflated, it became less valuable. The other 25,000 that was in Bitcoin now is worth 75,000, and they take 25 out of that, and they could go buy that car or afford that rental property. Like that's the difference between like people that are investing in some of the store of value of crypto and Bitcoin as opposed to holding cash. And those, like, think of how much of a difference that makes for a company that is trying to get an edge with their technology, their AI company there, and they have a couple millions of dollars that they have in. If it would have been cash over that same 3 year period, it would be worth 10% less. But if they would have invested, if they had that money in Bitcoin, it would have been worth 60 or 70% more.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
that's
when was
millions of
Elon Musk
dollars.
and Tesla buying it? It was probably anywhere in the 45 to $60,000 range, and it shot up to 109,000 and now landed in the 80s. That's our median price right now.
Yeah.
And we're expecting this to keep happening. It will keep happening. It might even happen more steadily with less big dips, the
Right.
more
And if
this
there are
large
dips,
amounts of money come in.
if there are dips, do you do that as well? Cover that on your channel, taking advantage of those swings?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Those are basically just buying opportunities. I always look at, going back to the hash price, the mining price. That's our median. That's where things seem to rise. Actually, right around there right now is basically floating right back at the mining cost. So we know what this kind of average cost is. When things swing down $10,000, I'm like, I'm gonna grab some more. Most people do.
Yeah, and those are
Absolutely.
the things people don't think about because in stocks you have financial reports and things like that. In Bitcoin you
Yeah.
have the mining cost or energy costs and things that you wouldn't really like so much think about, but when you think about it, it's common sense. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
those are the
Yep.
levels that would be supports and resistances. They're just different, but they exist.
And something also to remember, we are talking about this in terms of an asset for companies and for people. There are more and more loan companies that will actually, you can actually get collateral, essentially. You can collateralize this into a loan. So these companies can easily do that. They don't even have to sell their Bitcoin if they need some money, right? They can go to a company that will hold it in trust and offer good loans on it. And when things appreciate again, and the ones you didn't loan against go up so much, or your stock goes up all at the same time, then you have more cash and you sell more stock, and your stocks, everyone's living the dream. Then they can go get that back and get it out of hawk.
Right.
That's a something, but not just the companies enjoy this. We can do this too.
Exactly. And dollars with tariffs, with the market, the US dollar becoming a little bit stronger, especially with more manufacturing moving to the US and things. The US dollar becoming a little bit stronger. And we see that happen recently. But outside of that, you maybe say, "Oh, dollar's becoming a little bit stronger." Bitcoin or this investment, maybe Bitcoin, if it goes up when the dollar inflates or this, and now I'm saying, "Oh, is Bitcoin still going to go up when the dollar's strong?" And the answer is yes, because of the type of adoption that we're seeing. Did you know it just I remember it passed copper, then it passed
Yeah,
bronze, and then it passed silver
platinum.
in market cap, and now it's coming for gold in market cap.
Yeah.
So it's we're looking at an appreciating asset, and there's a reason why the Federal Reserve deemed it digital gold. And so the reason we share this video is to educate those that are seeing these companies invest into Bitcoin long term. I'm not someone that says when Bitcoin goes to zero, this company's going to be screwed. I mean, because that's what people say when Bitcoin goes to zero, or look at another company just capitalizing on the hype. Yeah,
Mm.
this is a little different.
It is very different, especially as it's
Um,
being invested into as a technology. Now, I just want to add one more thing because I'm actually seeing it on this screen you shared with me. Down in the bottom about the Treasury, the government level with Senator Cynthia Loomis proposing a national strategic Bitcoin reserve. Now, just something, when you're talking about dollars, you're talking about the value of our country as well, investing in this. There's actually a proposal with her right now, and she was instrumental with the Bitcoin Reserve, as it says right there on the KULR website, of also doing something with the Treasury. And I think they're called buy Bit bonds. Bit bonds is what they're called. bit bonds is what they're talking about right now, which is essentially treasury Bitcoin backed bonds. And this will essentially start tying, the value of Bitcoin to the dollar in a really interesting way. Maybe it's not what the founders of Bitcoin set out in the way this is really leaning it a bit into centralization, but
Yeah.
with the system taking it in, it can only be an advantage. And what they're looking at is that essentially if offering these kind of bonds, they can essentially expose the bonds buyers to the Bitcoin market and see so much growth and gains that they will both pay them really well, bring in lots of investment, and be able to cover that investment and have plenty to spare to then invest in the government. They see it as that valuable with that much growth potential.
Right. And let's not forget the US dollar is seen as the number one currency that is used to measure Bitcoin. And when you have those types of uh, linkages already in place, when the government decides, or the Federal Reserve or the Treasury, whoever decides to do these types of moves that impact that change the dynamics of how the US dollar interacts with the Bitcoin, they're not just, oh, that's a move that was made and it's not going to do anything. These are moves that will have some weight and can change the way that the US dollar, it could be seen even more prominently as the store of value. So I'm not saying that crypto's done. Some people say don't buy only buy Bitcoin with money you don't want to lose. I mean, we're in the case of looking at both sides, of course, but just to see the mix of both, it makes sense to at least consider the investments here as pretty solid. That's why we made the video. Hopefully it's been helpful for you guys. And Ace, when it comes down to watching you invest, trade live, and also seeing them as seeing these investments as some good insights for people to get, the number one thing I want people to take away from this video is, guys, a lot of this information that I share with you here, Ace came to me and he said, did you know this happened? Did you know this? I will say, if you guys want to know about what's happening in the crypto space, there's some smaller tokens that are just emerging, some companies that have tokens. There's also the relation of Bitcoin and how to navigate that space. You got XRP conversations. You got some conversations around Chainlink. You said Avalanche, all these things. Ace,
Yeah.
number one thing they can do is what? Go subscribe.
Come and subscribe. I think a lot of people, they get defeated ahead of time thinking, hey, what's going on? I didn't invest early like everyone else. I didn't catch the jump of like Bitcoin when it was $600 and now it's $80,000. Is there room? Yes, there is room in terms of Bitcoin, but there's also so many gems, like you were just mentioning, that are undervalued. And, they're doing a lot behind the scenes, and the world has yet to find out about how great they really are. This is still in its infancy, and it's never too late to get in. So please, yes, check out the second link down in the description. Check out what Will's doing, and come over to CryptoMate and check out what I'm doing. You can find me
Let's
on
go.
YouTube, Ace Green, CryptoMate. Come and join me,
Hey, let's
and
go.
come for
He's
some
on the
free
road.
insight. You
Free
know?
insight, man. And also, he's
Yeah.
on the road to 1,000 subscribers. He's growing fast. And again, that's special to take advantage of getting 1 year of access to Stockmate so you can join us in our live sessions. And on top of that, getting access to CryptoMate to get those insights with Ace comes down to simply the second link in the description. First link to check his channel, second link to go join and take advantage of that limited time offer because it is closing. Again, 1 year free of Stockmate, and then on top of that, you get the live sessions with Ace there. And I would encourage you guys, simply take a look. The second link in the description, they got quarterly, and then they got the lifetime access. You can do one-time payment, no subscription or anything like that to get started. So again, second link in the description to join. Ace, appreciate you having here. Appreciate you being here, and thanks for tuning in, man.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. Always great to see you. Really
Awesome.
appreciate it.
If we earn the thumbs up, hit the like button, guys. Consider subscribing here. See you in the next video.
See you guys later.
Bye.